Welcome to the Truck and Transport Mechanic Red Seal exam practice. This video contains 150 practice questions to help you prepare for your certification exam. Let's begin. This exam covers the following major work activities: common occupational skills, engines and supporting systems, air systems and brake systems, electrical and electronic systems, drive trains, steering, chassis, suspensions, tires, cabs, trailers, climate control systems, hydraulic systems, and hybrid and electric vehicles. Before we start, if you're preparing for your Red Seal exam, hit subscribe. We cover over 50 trades. Question 1. Which practice is essential for maintaining a safe work environment in a truck shop? A. Storing all tools on the shop floor for quick access during repairs. B. Running diesel engines indoors without ventilation to warm up components. C. Leaving hydraulic jacks under load overnight to save setup time. D. Keeping work areas clean and free of oil spills, debris, and tripping hazards. The correct answer is D. A clean, hazard-free work area prevents slips, trips, and falls, which are among the most common shop injuries. Oil spills and debris must be cleaned immediately. Question 2. When working with diesel fuel systems, which type of personal protective equipment is required to protect against skin absorption? A. Steel-toed boots with metatarsal guards. B. A hard hat with an attached face shield. C. Hearing protection rated for 85 dB or higher. D. Chemical-resistant nitrile gloves rated for petroleum products. The correct answer is D. Chemical-resistant nitrile gloves protect against diesel fuel absorption through the skin. Prolonged diesel contact causes dermatitis and can lead to serious health issues. Question 3. Before servicing a hybrid truck, what must a mechanic verify regarding the high-voltage system? A. That the high-voltage system is de-energized and locked out per procedure. B. That the diesel engine has been running for at least 10 minutes. C. That the transmission is in neutral and the parking brake is set. D. That the 12V auxiliary battery has been fully charged. The correct answer is A. High-voltage systems in hybrid trucks can deliver lethal shocks. The system must be de-energized and locked out following specific isolation procedures before any service work begins. Question 4. When using a digital multimeter to test a truck circuit, what should the mechanic do first? A. Connect the red lead to ground and the black lead to the positive terminal. B. Set the meter to the highest amperage scale available. C. Disconnect all fuses in the circuit before taking a measurement. D. Select the correct measurement function and range for the test being performed. The correct answer is D. Selecting the correct function, voltage, resistance, or amperage, and range prevents meter damage and ensures accurate readings. An incorrect setting can blow internal fuses or damage the meter. Question 5. What is the correct procedure for positioning a floor jack under a Class 8 truck frame? A. Position the jack under the bumper bracket and raise quickly to full height. B. Place the jack under the oil pan and pump to lift the front of the truck. C. Place the jack pad on a reinforced frame rail section and raise until contact is firm before lifting. D. Set the jack on soft ground and lift the truck by the exhaust manifold. The correct answer is C. The jack must contact a reinforced frame rail section to distribute the load safely. Lifting on non-structural components risks collapse and injury. Question 6. When using an overhead crane to remove a diesel engine from a Class 8 truck, which step must be completed before lifting? A. Verify the crane's rated capacity exceeds the engine weight and inspect all rigging hardware. B. Attach chains directly to the exhaust manifold studs for a secure connection. C. Engage the transmission in gear to stabilize the engine during removal. D. Remove the radiator shroud only after the engine is fully suspended by the crane. The correct answer is A. Verifying crane capacity and inspecting rigging prevents overloading, chain failure, and dropped loads. A typical inline 6 diesel engine weighs over 900 kilograms. Question 7. How should a mechanic use technical service bulletins when diagnosing recurring truck issues? A. Ignore them if the truck is still under the original warranty period. B. Only reference bulletins published within the last calendar year. C. Cross-reference the vehicle model, year, and symptoms with available bulletins before beginning diagnosis. D. Apply all available bulletins regardless of whether symptoms match the complaint. The correct answer is C. Cross-referencing the vehicle specifics with bulletins identifies known problems and manufacturer-recommended fixes, saving diagnostic time and preventing unnecessary repairs. Question 8. A mechanic notices engine oil on the shop floor beneath a truck that was serviced yesterday. What should be done first? A. Top up the oil level and return the truck to service immediately. B. Wipe up the spill and assume the drain plug was left slightly loose. C. Call the customer to report a major engine failure requiring a rebuild. D. Clean the spill for safety, then inspect the drain plug, filter, and gasket areas to find the leak source. The correct answer is D. Cleaning the spill first prevents a slip hazard, then systematically inspecting common leak points, drain plug, filter, gaskets, identifies the root cause before taking corrective action. Question 9. An apprentice is about to torque cylinder head bolts on a diesel engine without a torque specification. What should the supervising mechanic do? A. Stop the apprentice and have them look up the manufacturer's torque specification and tightening sequence first. B. Allow the apprentice to tighten by feel to develop their skills. C. Tell the apprentice to use the same torque as a gasoline engine of similar size. D. Have the apprentice skip the torque step and proceed to reassembly. The correct answer is A. Cylinder head bolts require precise torque values and specific tightening sequences to ensure proper clamping force. Incorrect torque causes head gasket failure, coolant leaks, or warped heads. Question 10. What is the primary function of the engine control module, ECM, in a modern diesel truck? A. To regulate the air conditioning compressor clutch engagement timing. B. To manage the transmission shift schedule and torque converter lockup. C. To control the alternator field current and battery charging rate. D. To monitor sensor inputs and control fuel injection timing, quantity, and emission systems. The correct answer is D. The ECM receives data from sensors, temperature, pressure, position, and uses it to precisely control fuel injection timing and quantity, as well as emission control devices like EGR and DPF regeneration. Question 11. Which sensor provides the ECM with real-time data on exhaust gas oxygen content for emission control? A. The engine coolant temperature sensor mounted on the thermostat housing. B. The nitrogen oxide, NOx, sensor installed in the exhaust aftertreatment system. C. The intake manifold pressure sensor located before the turbocharger. D. The crankcase pressure sensor connected to the breather tube. The correct answer is B. The NOx sensor measures nitrogen oxide levels in the exhaust stream. The ECM uses this data to adjust DEF injection rates in the SCR catalyst for optimal emission reduction. Question 12. What happens when the diesel particulate filter, DPF, differential pressure exceeds the maximum threshold? A. The engine immediately shuts down to protect the turbocharger bearings. B. The ECM disables the EGR valve to increase exhaust temperature. C. The fuel injectors are permanently disabled until a manual reset is performed. D. The ECM initiates a forced regeneration cycle or triggers a derate condition. The correct answer is D. When DPF soot loading becomes excessive, the ECM either initiates active regeneration by injecting fuel to raise exhaust temperatures or derates engine power to compel the operator to address the issue. Question 13. In a Class 8 truck diesel engine, what is the purpose of the crankshaft vibration damper? A. It connects the flywheel to the transmission input shaft during cranking. B. It provides additional counterweight to balance the rotating assembly at idle. C. It absorbs torsional vibrations generated by the firing impulses of each cylinder. D. It drives the water pump and fan belt through a direct gear connection. The correct answer is C. The vibration damper, harmonic balancer, absorbs torsional vibrations from combustion pulses that would otherwise cause crankshaft fatigue and failure. Question 14. During a cylinder compression test on an inline-6 diesel, a mechanic finds one cylinder reads 690 kPa while the others read 2,760 kPa. What does this indicate? A. A significant leak in that cylinder, such as a failed valve, head gasket, or worn rings. B. Normal variation between cylinders due to manufacturing tolerances. C. The injector for that cylinder is delivering too much fuel during the test. D. The crankshaft vibration damper is slipping on the crankshaft snout. The correct answer is A. A cylinder reading 75% below the others indicates a major compression leak. Common causes include burned valves, blown head gaskets, or severely worn piston rings. Question 15. When replacing cylinder liners in a wet liner diesel engine, what component prevents coolant from leaking past the liner? A. The head gasket fire ring that seals the combustion chamber from above. B. The main bearing caps that clamp the crankshaft in position. C. The O-rings or liner seals installed at the base of the cylinder liner. D. The valve cover gasket that sits on top of the cylinder head. The correct answer is C. Wet liners are surrounded by coolant, so O-rings or seal rings at the liner base prevent coolant from entering the crankcase. Damaged seals cause coolant contamination of engine oil. Question 16. What is the function of the charge air cooler, intercooler, in a turbocharged diesel engine? A. To preheat the intake air for easier cold weather starting. B. To reduce the temperature of compressed intake air, increasing its density for combustion. C. To filter particulate matter from the turbocharger outlet air. D. To lubricate the turbocharger bearings with cooled oil mist. The correct answer is B. The charge air cooler lowers the temperature of turbocompressed air, increasing oxygen density. Denser intake air improves combustion efficiency and reduces NOx formation. Question 17. What condition does a boost pressure leak in the intake system cause on a turbocharged diesel engine? A. Excessive white exhaust smoke at all operating temperatures. B. Increased fuel economy due to leaner air-fuel mixture entering cylinders. C. Reduced power output, black smoke, and possible turbocharger overspeeding. D. Higher than normal oil pressure readings on the engine gauge. The correct answer is C. A boost leak allows compressed air to escape before reaching the cylinders, causing power loss and black smoke from incomplete combustion. The turbo may overspeed, compensating for lost pressure. Question 18. When replacing a turbocharger on a diesel engine, what should the mechanic do before installing the new unit? A. Pre-lubricate the turbo bearings by filling the oil inlet with clean engine oil. B. Run the engine at full throttle for 5 minutes to clear debris from the exhaust manifold. C. Disconnect the charge air cooler hoses and seal them permanently with silicone. D. Remove the wastegate actuator and set it aside for installation later. The correct answer is A. Pre-lubricating the turbocharger bearings before first start prevents dry start damage. Turbo bearings spin at very high RPM and rely on oil pressure that takes a moment to build. Question 19. How should a mechanic service the diesel exhaust fluid (DEF) system to maintain proper SCR operation? A. Mix DEF with diesel fuel at a 50/50 ratio before adding to the DEF tank. B. Allow the DEF tank to run completely empty before refilling to clear sediment. C. Drain and replace DEF every 500 kilometers to prevent contamination of the catalyst. D. Check DEF concentration, inspect the injector nozzle for crystallization, and verify fluid level. The correct answer is D. Proper DEF maintenance includes verifying the correct urea concentration, 32.5%, inspecting the injector for crystallization blockages, and maintaining adequate fluid level for SCR function. Question 20. When diagnosing a DPF regeneration failure, what should the mechanic check after verifying no active fault codes? A. The transmission fluid level and condition in the automatic transmission. B. The air conditioning refrigerant charge and compressor clutch gap. C. The exhaust back pressure sensor readings and the DPF differential pressure to confirm soot loading levels. D. The battery state of charge and alternator output voltage at idle. The correct answer is C. The DPF differential pressure sensor measures soot loading across the filter. Comparing sensor readings to specifications confirms whether the DPF is genuinely overloaded or a sensor is faulty. Question 21. What is the correct procedure for replacing a cracked exhaust manifold on a diesel engine? A. Remove the manifold while the engine is hot to take advantage of thermal expansion on the bolts. B. Replace only the cracked section using high-temperature epoxy to save time and parts cost. C. Install the new manifold without a gasket since modern manifolds seal metal to metal. D. Allow the engine to cool, remove mounting bolts in the manufacturer's sequence, and inspect studs for damage before installing the new manifold. The correct answer is D. The engine must be cool to prevent burns and allow proper bolt torquing. Following the removal sequence prevents warping, and inspecting studs ensures a proper seal with the new manifold. Question 22. When servicing a diesel fuel system, what must be done after replacing fuel filters? A. Add engine oil to the fuel filter housing to lubricate the injector pump. B. Prime the fuel system to remove trapped air before attempting to start the engine. C. Disconnect the return line and let fuel drain into a container for 10 minutes. D. Adjust the injection pump timing by rotating the pump housing 5 degrees. The correct answer is B. Air in the fuel system prevents proper injector operation and can cause hard starting or no start conditions. Priming removes air pockets and fills the filters with fuel. Question 23. When diagnosing low fuel rail pressure on a common rail diesel, which component should be tested first? A. The exhaust gas recirculation valve and its vacuum actuator. B. The oil pressure sending unit and its wiring connector. C. The fuel transfer pump output pressure and fuel filter restriction. D. The glow plug relay and glow plug resistance values. The correct answer is C. Low fuel rail pressure often originates from a weak transfer pump or restricted filters. Testing transfer pump output and filter restriction identifies the most common causes before investigating rail components. Question 24. After replacing a high-pressure fuel injector on a common rail diesel, what calibration step is required? A. Adjusting the valve lash on the cylinder where the injector was replaced. B. Programming the new injector trim code into the ECM using a diagnostic skin tool. C. Resetting the oil life monitor and performing an oil change. D. Replacing the glow plug in the same cylinder to ensure even heating. The correct answer is B. Each common rail injector has a unique trim code that compensates for manufacturing variations. Programming this code into the ECM ensures precise fuel delivery for that specific injector. Question 25. What is the proper method for testing coolant condition in a heavy-duty diesel cooling system? A. Use a refractometer to check freeze point and test strips to verify additive concentration levels. B. Taste the coolant to determine if it has become acidic or degraded. C. Check only the coolant color, as green coolant is always in good condition. D. Measure the coolant temperature at the radiator cap and compare to ambient temperature. The correct answer is A. A refractometer accurately measures freeze point protection, while test strips check supplemental coolant additive (SCA) levels. Both are needed to ensure adequate freeze and corrosion protection. Question 26. How should a mechanic pressure test a heavy-duty truck cooling system for leaks? A. Install a pressure tester on the radiator fill neck and pressurize to the cap rated pressure, then monitor for pressure drop. B. Run the engine at maximum RPM and visually inspect for steam or dripping. C. Add a fluorescent dye to the coolant and drive the truck for 500 kilometers before inspecting. D. Remove the thermostat and observe whether coolant flows through the heater hoses. The correct answer is A. A cooling system pressure tester applies controlled pressure equal to the cap rating. A pressure drop over time confirms a leak, which can then be located visually or with UV dye. Question 27. After replacing a water pump on a diesel engine, what must be done before returning the truck to service? A. Fill the cooling system, bleed trapped air, and verify there are no leaks at operating temperature. B. Disconnect the heater hoses to prevent air locks in the heater core. C. Replace the serpentine belt tensioner even if it appears to be in good condition. D. Drain the engine oil and replace it since coolant may have entered the crankcase. The correct answer is A. After water pump replacement, the cooling system must be properly filled, air bled from high points, and the system checked for leaks at operating temperature to confirm a successful repair. Question 28. A diesel engine oil analysis report shows elevated levels of silicon and aluminum. What is the most likely cause? A. Excessive idle time causing fuel dilution of the engine oil. B. A failed coolant conditioner releasing corrosion inhibitor chemicals. C. A compromised air intake system allowing dirt and dust into the engine. D. An oversized oil filter allowing unfiltered oil to bypass the media. The correct answer is C. Silicon indicates dirt ingestion and aluminum indicates piston or bearing wear from abrasive particles. A cracked intake hose, loose clamp, or failed air filter allows contaminants into the engine. Question 29. A truck shows low oil pressure at idle that rises to normal at higher RPM. What should the mechanic investigate first? A. The camshaft position sensor signal for intermittent electrical dropouts. B. The coolant level in the degas bottle and radiator cap seal condition. C. The exhaust brake butterfly valve for carbon buildup causing restriction. D. The oil level and condition, then the oil pressure relief valve and pickup tube for restriction. The correct answer is D. Low oil pressure at idle that recovers at higher RPM suggests low oil level, a weak oil pump, or a restricted pickup tube. Verifying oil level first is the quickest and most common cause to rule out. Question 30. A driver reports the compression release engine brake activates intermittently on downhill grades. What is the most likely cause? A. The diesel particulate filter is fully regenerated and blocking exhaust flow. B. The air conditioning compressor engaging and disengaging under heavy load. C. Low transmission fluid causing the torque converter to lose hydraulic pressure. D. A faulty engine brake solenoid or wiring causing inconsistent activation of the brake valves. The correct answer is D. Intermittent engine brake operation typically results from a faulty solenoid or damaged wiring that causes inconsistent oil flow to the brake actuators. Electrical diagnosis of the solenoid circuit is needed. Question 31. An engine retarder produces a loud knocking sound when engaged at high RPM. What should the mechanic check? A. The radiator fan clutch engagement temperature and belt tension. B. The fuel injector nozzle spray patterns and opening pressures. C. The engine brake slave piston lash adjustment and rocker arm condition for wear. D. The air filter housing clamps and intake resonator for cracks. The correct answer is C. Knocking during engine brake engagement indicates excessive slave piston lash or worn rocker components. Incorrect lash causes the exhaust valve to contact the piston or operate with excessive impact. Question 32. What is the function of the governor in a truck air brake system? A. It controls the rate of air release from the brake chambers during braking. B. It prevents the brake drums from overheating during prolonged downhill descents. C. It limits the maximum speed of the vehicle during loaded highway operation. D. It regulates air compressor output by cutting in and cutting out at preset pressures. The correct answer is D. The governor controls system air pressure by engaging, cut in, and disengaging, cut out, the compressor. Typical settings are approximately 690 kPa cut in and 830 kPa cut out. Question 33. What is the purpose of the air dryer in a truck compressed air system? A. To increase the air pressure output of the compressor by 20%. B. To remove moisture and contaminants from compressed air before it enters the reservoirs. C. To cool the air compressor cylinder head to prevent overheating. D. To filter oil vapor from the engine crankcase ventilation system. The correct answer is B. The air dryer removes moisture, oil, and contaminants from compressed air using a desiccant cartridge. This prevents corrosion and frees up in valves, lines, and brake components. Question 34. In a dual-circuit air brake system, what happens if the primary circuit loses all air pressure? A. Both circuits fail simultaneously because they share the same supply reservoir. B. The secondary circuit continues to provide braking for the rear axle while the spring brakes may apply. C. The engine automatically shuts down to prevent unsafe vehicle operation. D. The parking brake releases to allow the vehicle to coast to a safe stop. The correct answer is B. Dual circuits provide redundancy. If the primary circuit fails, the secondary circuit still provides partial braking. Below a certain pressure, spring brakes also apply automatically for parking. Question 35. What component protects the air system from backflow if the compressor discharge line ruptures? A. The quick release valve at each brake chamber inlet port. B. The pressure relief valve mounted on the primary air reservoir. C. The air dryer purge valve that opens during compressor unloading. D. The one-way check valve installed between the compressor and the wet tank. The correct answer is D. The one-way check valve between the compressor and wet tank prevents stored air from escaping back through a ruptured discharge line, maintaining system pressure for braking. Question 36. At what approximate pressure do spring brakes begin to apply on a typical Class 8 truck? A. Between 830 kPa and 900 kPa as the system reaches maximum operating pressure. B. Between 140 kPa and 280 kPa as hold-off air pressure drops below the spring force. C. At exactly 0 kPa when all air has been completely exhausted from the system. D. At 550 kPa, which is the standard governor cut-in pressure setting. The correct answer is B. Spring brakes begin to apply when hold-off air pressure drops below approximately 280 kPa and are fully applied below about 140 kPa. The spring force overcomes the reduced air pressure. Question 37. What is the maximum allowable air pressure drop rate for a combination vehicle with the engine off and brakes released? A. No more than 55 kPa in 1 minute with a fully charged system. B. No more than 7 kPa in 1 minute regardless of system configuration. C. The system should hold pressure indefinitely with zero drop in all conditions. D. No more than 20 kilopascals in 1 minute for the tractor-trailer combination. The correct answer is D. For a combination vehicle with the engine off and brakes released, air pressure should not drop more than approximately 20 kilopascals per minute. Greater loss indicates a system leak requiring repair. Question 38. What is the function of the tractor protection valve in a combination vehicle air system? A. It automatically closes to preserve tractor air supply if trailer air pressure drops below a safe level. B. It increases trailer brake application pressure during emergency stops. C. It routes air from the wet tank directly to the trailer spring brake chambers. D. It controls the compressor governor cut-in and cut-out pressure settings. The correct answer is A. The tractor protection valve isolates the tractor air supply from the trailer in the event of a trailer breakaway or severe trailer air leak, ensuring the tractor retains braking capability. Question 39. How should a mechanic perform an air compressor buildup time test on a Class 8 truck? A. Drain all reservoirs, start the engine at high idle, and time how long until the low air warning buzzer sounds. B. Drain system pressure to 350 kilopascals, run the engine at governed RPM, and time buildup from 585 to 690 kilopascals. C. Disconnect the air dryer, run the compressor at idle, and measure the outlet temperature with a pyrometer. D. Apply the service brakes fully, start the engine, and record peak system pressure after 5 minutes. The correct answer is B. The standard buildup test requires timing pressure rise from 585 kilopascals to 690 kilopascals at governed RPM. This should take no more than approximately 45 seconds for a properly functioning compressor. Question 40. What is the correct procedure for replacing an air compressor on a diesel truck? A. Install the new compressor dry and allow the engine oil system to lubricate it during the first start. B. Reuse the old mounting gaskets if they appear undamaged to save installation time. C. Pre-lubricate the compressor through the oil inlet, install new gaskets, and torque mounting bolts to specification. D. Connect only the discharge line first, run the compressor, then attach the remaining lines. The correct answer is C. Pre-lubrication prevents dry start bearing damage. New gaskets ensure proper sealing, and correct bolt torque prevents air leaks and vibration-related failures. Question 41. When draining moisture from air reservoirs during routine maintenance, which reservoir should be drained first? A. The secondary reservoir, since it supplies the front brakes exclusively. B. The primary reservoir, since it is closest to the brake chambers. C. Any reservoir can be drained first since the order does not affect system integrity. D. The wet tank, supply reservoir, since it collects the most moisture and contaminants. The correct answer is D. The wet tank receives air directly from the compressor and accumulates the most moisture and oil. Draining it first removes the largest concentration of contaminants before they migrate downstream. Question 42. What is the correct method for measuring brake drum diameter during a brake inspection? A. Visually estimate drum wear by looking at the friction surface through the inspection hole. B. Measure the outside diameter of the drum with a tape measure and subtract the wall thickness. C. Use a calibrated brake drum gauge or inside micrometer to measure at multiple points and compare to the maximum allowable diameter. D. Place a straight edge across the drum opening and measure the gap with a feeler gauge. The correct answer is C. Accurate drum measurement requires a calibrated drum gauge or inside micrometer at multiple points to check for out of round and compare against the maximum diameter stamped on the drum. Question 43. How should a mechanic measure and record brake pushrod stroke during an inspection? A. Disconnect the pushrod from the slack adjuster and measure its total extended length. B. Mark the pushrod at the chamber, apply full brake pressure, then measure the distance the mark moved. C. Count the number of turns on the manual slack adjuster and multiply by the thread pitch. D. Measure the distance from the brake chamber to the camshaft center with a tape measure. The correct answer is B. Marking the pushrod and measuring its travel under full brake application provides an accurate stroke measurement. This value is compared to the adjustment limit for the chamber type and size. Question 44. When replacing brake shoes on a truck with SCAM brakes, what must be verified after installation? A. That the ABS wheel speed sensor has been recalibrated using the scan tool. B. That the air compressor governor has been reset to factory cut-in and cut-out settings. C. That the trailer glad hand connections have been reconnected and pressure tested. D. That the brake shoe-to-drum clearance is correct and the automatic slack adjuster operates properly. The correct answer is D. Proper shoe-to-drum clearance ensures the brake applies and releases correctly. The automatic slack adjuster must function to maintain this clearance as the shoes wear during service. Question 45. What should a mechanic inspect on the brake SCAM during a foundation brake service? A. The cam profiles for wear and flat spots, bushings for play, and seals for grease retention. B. The electrical connector pins for corrosion and proper terminal tension. C. The governor diaphragm for cracks and the spring for correct tension. D. The radiator hoses for bulging and the clamps for proper tightness. The correct answer is A. Worn SCAM lobes reduce brake force, worn bushings cause uneven shoe contact, and failed seals allow dirt in and grease out. All three conditions degrade braking performance. Question 46. How should a mechanic test the ABS system on a truck during a brake diagnosis? A. Disconnect the ABS module fuse and verify that the brakes still stop the truck normally. B. Pump the brake pedal rapidly while stationary to simulate wheel lockup conditions. C. Use a diagnostic scan tool to read ABS fault codes and monitor wheel speed sensor data during a road test. D. Increase air system pressure above normal operating range to trigger ABS self-test mode. The correct answer is C. A scan tool retrieves stored fault codes and allows real-time monitoring of wheel speed sensor signals. A road test confirms proper ABS modulator operation under actual braking conditions. Question 47. After replacing a brake chamber on an SCAM brake assembly, what adjustment must be performed? A. The air governor cut-in and cut-out pressures must be recalibrated to match the new chamber size. B. The automatic slack adjuster must be properly installed, and initial brake adjustment set to specification. C. The ABS wheel speed sensor air gap must be set to exactly 3.0 mm from the tone ring. D. The air dryer desiccant cartridge should be replaced due to moisture introduced during the repair. The correct answer is B. After brake chamber replacement, the automatic slack adjuster must be correctly installed and the initial pushrod stroke adjusted to the manufacturer's specification for proper brake operation. Question 48. During a pre-trip inspection, a driver reports one wheel is significantly hotter than the others. What is the most likely cause? A. The brake on that wheel is dragging due to a seized SCAM, failed return spring, or binding slack adjuster. B. The tire on that wheel has been recently replaced with a different brand. C. The ABS modulator is continuously applying pressure to that wheel only. D. The wheel bearing is packed with too much grease causing friction heat. The correct answer is A. A hot wheel typically indicates a dragging brake. Seized SCAMs, broken return springs, or binding slack adjusters prevent the brake from fully releasing, generating excessive heat. Question 49. A truck pulls to the right during braking. After verifying tire pressures are equal, what should the mechanic investigate? A. The engine idle speed and fuel injection timing for the right side cylinders. B. The power steering fluid level and condition in the steering gear reservoir. C. The coolant flow rate through the right side charge air cooler passages. D. The brake adjustment and component condition on both sides, looking for unequal braking force. The correct answer is D. Pulling during braking indicates unequal braking force. One side may have worn linings, a restricted air line, contaminated shoes, or a maladjusted slack adjuster causing the imbalance. Question 50. A driver reports the truck's stopping distance has increased noticeably. Pushrod stroke measurements are within limits. What should the mechanic check next? A. The engine oil level and filter condition, since a dirty filter reduces braking efficiency. B. Brake shoe lining thickness, drum condition, and whether oil or grease contamination is present on the friction surfaces. C. The transmission fluid level and torque converter operation under deceleration. D. The exhaust system for restrictions that could affect engine braking contribution. The correct answer is B. If pushrod stroke is acceptable, increased stopping distance points to reduced friction. Thin linings, glazed or scored drums, or oil-contaminated friction surfaces all decrease braking effectiveness. If you're finding these questions helpful, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. It helps other apprentices find this resource too. Now let's continue. Question 51. The ABS warning light illuminates intermittently during highway driving. Scan tool shows a rear wheel speed sensor fault. What is the most likely cause? A. The brake shoe return springs are too weak to fully retract the shoes from the drum. B. The air compressor is cycling too frequently, causing voltage spikes in the ABS module. C. The wheel speed sensor has an excessive air gap, damaged wiring, or debris on the tone ring. D. The trailer ABS system is interfering with the tractor ABS through the glad hand connections. The correct answer is C. Intermittent wheel speed sensor faults are commonly caused by excessive air gap from worn bearings, damaged wiring from road debris, or metallic buildup on the tone ring affecting signal quality. Question 52. In a typical Class 8 truck with 4 12V batteries, how are the batteries connected to produce a 24V starting system? A. All 4 batteries are connected in parallel to double the amperage output. B. 2 batteries are connected in series for 24V, and 2 parallel sets provide the required cranking amperage. C. 2 batteries are connected in series, then those 2 pairs are connected in series for 48V. D. Each battery connects to its own dedicated starter motor independently. The correct answer is B. Series parallel configuration produces 24V, 2 in series, while doubling the amperage capacity, 2 parallel sets. This provides adequate voltage and cranking current for large diesel starters. Question 53. What does a specific gravity reading of 1.265 indicate when testing a lead-acid truck battery cell? A. The cell is completely discharged and the battery must be replaced. B. The electrolyte has been contaminated with coolant from a nearby leak. C. The cell is fully charged and in good condition for service. D. The cell is overcharged and at risk of thermal runaway. The correct answer is C. A specific gravity of 1.265 at 27 degrees Celsius indicates a fully charged cell. Values below 1.225 indicate partial discharge, and variation of more than 0.050 between cells indicates a failing battery. Question 54. When replacing truck batteries, which cable should be disconnected first and reconnected last? A. The positive cable, to prevent overcharging the remaining batteries in the bank. B. The negative, ground, cable, to prevent accidental short circuits during removal. C. The jumper cable between series-connected batteries to isolate voltage. D. The starter motor cable, to prevent the engine from cranking during service. The correct answer is B. Disconnecting the negative cable first eliminates the ground path, preventing sparks from accidental tool contact with chassis ground. Reconnecting it last maintains this safety throughout the process. Question 55. What is the function of the voltage regulator in a truck charging system? A. To convert AC output from the alternator into DC current for battery charging. B. To limit the maximum current output of the alternator to protect the wiring harness. C. To step down the 24V system voltage to 12V for accessory circuits. D. To control alternator field current to maintain a consistent output voltage regardless of engine speed or load. The correct answer is D. The voltage regulator adjusts field current to the rotor, controlling magnetic field strength and thus alternator output voltage. This maintains consistent voltage as speed and electrical loads vary. Question 56. What type of current does a truck alternator generate internally before it is available at the output terminal? A. Pulsating direct current from a commutator and brush assembly. B. Three-phase alternating current that is rectified to DC by a diode bridge. C. High-frequency square-wave current from an electronic inverter. D. Steady direct current produced by permanent magnets spinning in copper coils. The correct answer is B. Alternators generate three-phase AC in the stator windings. A rectifier bridge of 6 or more diodes converts this AC to DC for battery charging and system power. Question 57. What is the typical regulated voltage output range for a properly functioning 12V truck alternator? A. Between 11.8V and 12.2V measured at the alternator output stud at idle. B. Between 15.5V and 16.5V to ensure rapid battery charging during short trips. C. Between 13.5V and 14.5V measured at the battery terminals with the engine running. D. Between 10.0V and 11.0V to prevent overcharging sealed maintenance-free batteries. The correct answer is C. A properly regulated 12V alternator outputs 13.5 to 14.5V. This range charges the battery fully without overcharging, which causes electrolyte loss and premature battery failure. Question 58. Which component in the alternator wears over time and should be inspected during charging system service? A. The rectifier diode bridge, which requires cleaning every 50,000 kilometers. B. The stator laminations that become magnetized and lose output efficiency. C. The drive end bearing seal that controls the alternator internal oil level. D. The brushes that ride on the slip rings, transferring current to the rotor field winding. The correct answer is D. Carbon brushes wear from continuous contact with the slip rings. As they shorten, spring pressure decreases and eventually the brushes cannot maintain contact, causing intermittent or no charging. Question 59. During a full-field alternator test, what is the mechanic bypassing to isolate the alternator? A. The battery isolation switch to prevent reverse current flow into the starter motor. B. The ignition switch to supply direct battery power to the alternator field winding. C. The fuse panel to eliminate parasitic drain from cabin accessories during the test. D. The voltage regulator, to determine if the alternator can produce maximum output. The correct answer is D. Full fielding bypasses the voltage regulator by applying full battery voltage to the rotor field. If output rises to maximum, the alternator is good and the regulator is faulty. Question 60. When servicing the ignition system on a gasoline-powered medium-duty truck, what should the mechanic inspect first? A. The spark plug condition, ignition coil outputs, and high-tension wire resistance values. B. The diesel glow plug resistance values across all cylinders evenly. C. The turbocharger wastegate actuator vacuum line for cracks or disconnection. D. The fuel injection pump timing marks and delivery valve sealing surfaces. The correct answer is A. Spark plug condition reveals combustion issues, coil output confirms adequate spark energy, and wire resistance checks identify degraded insulation that causes misfires. Question 61. How should a mechanic diagnose a misfire on a gasoline medium-duty truck using a skin tool? A. Monitor misfire counters for each cylinder and compare data to identify the affected cylinder or cylinders. B. Clear all codes and drive the truck until the check engine light illuminates again. C. Disable the ABS system first to prevent interference with engine sensor readings. D. Rev the engine to redline RPM repeatedly while watching for exhaust color changes. The correct answer is A. Skin tool misfire counters track misfire events per cylinder in real time. Comparing counts identifies which cylinder is misfiring, directing further diagnosis to that cylinder's ignition, fuel, or compression. Question 62. When servicing a truck starter motor, what should the mechanic check on the electrical connections? A. The alternator field wire resistance between the voltage regulator and the ignition switch. B. The battery cable terminals, starter solenoid contacts, and ground connections for corrosion and tightness. C. The cabin fuse panel for blown fuses related to the headlight and marker light circuits. D. The trailer 7-way connector pins for proper voltage output to the trailer ABS module. The correct answer is B. Corroded or loose connections create high resistance, causing voltage drop that reduces cranking power. Battery cables, solenoid terminals, and ground straps must be clean and tight. Question 63. How should a mechanic perform a voltage drop test on the starter motor circuit? A. Disconnect the starter and measure resistance across the motor windings with an ohm meter. B. Measure battery open circuit voltage with the engine running at high idle. C. Install an ammeter in series with the battery and measure current draw with the engine at idle. D. Connect a voltmeter across each cable and connection in the circuit while cranking, looking for drops exceeding 0.5 V. The correct answer is D. Voltage drop testing during cranking identifies high-resistance connections. Each cable and connection is tested individually. Drops exceeding 0.5 V indicate corrosion, loose terminals, or damaged cables. Question 64. After replacing a starter motor on a diesel truck, what should the mechanic verify before returning the vehicle to service? A. That the starter engages the flywheel ring gear smoothly, cranks at proper speed, and disengages cleanly after start. B. That the exhaust brake solenoid engages when the cruise control is activated. C. That the air conditioning compressor clutch cycles properly at idle speed. D. That the alternator belt tension has been readjusted to factory specification. The correct answer is A. Proper starter operation includes smooth ring gear engagement without grinding, adequate cranking speed, and clean disengagement after the engine starts. Issues indicate pinion or solenoid problems. Question 65. What is the correct procedure for performing a starter current draw test on a diesel truck? A. Disconnect the starter motor and bench test it with a 12 V battery and jumper cables. B. Measure the voltage at the alternator output terminal while the engine is cranking. C. Use an ohm meter to test continuity through the starter solenoid pull-in winding while the key is off. D. Clamp an inductive ammeter around the battery positive cable and record current while cranking with injectors disabled. The correct answer is D. An inductive ammeter on the battery cable measures draw during cranking. Disabling injectors prevents starting, allowing sustained cranking. Current should match manufacturer specifications. Question 66. A truck cranks slowly despite fully charged batteries. What diagnostic step should the mechanic take next? A. Replace all 4 batteries immediately since slow cranking always indicates battery failure. B. Perform voltage drop tests on the positive and negative cables to check for excessive resistance. C. Increase the idle speed setting to help the starter overcome increased compression. D. Check the coolant temperature sensor for an erratic signal causing timing retard. The correct answer is B. With fully charged batteries, slow cranking points to high resistance in the starter circuit. Voltage drop tests on cables and connections identify corroded or loose connections restricting current flow. Question 67. When servicing truck lighting circuits, how should the mechanic test for a ground fault in a marker light circuit? A. Disconnect all fuses and measure battery voltage at the alternator output stud. B. Use a multimeter to check for continuity between the light fixture ground and the chassis ground point. C. Apply 24V from a separate power supply directly to each bulb socket. D. Replace all the bulbs in the circuit with LEDs to bypass the ground issue. The correct answer is B. A continuity test between the fixture ground and chassis confirms a complete ground path. High or infinite resistance indicates a broken ground wire, corroded connection, or loose mounting. Question 68. How should a mechanic diagnose a parasitic battery drain on a truck that depletes batteries overnight? A. Charge the batteries fully and check the specific gravity in each cell to look for weak cells. B. Replace the alternator voltage regulator since it is likely allowing reverse current flow. C. Disconnect the trailer plug and check if the drain stops, indicating a trailer wiring issue. D. Connect an ammeter in series with the battery, disconnect and pull fuses one at a time to identify the circuit causing the drain. The correct answer is D. A series ammeter measures total parasitic draw. Pulling fuses one at a time isolates the circuit responsible when the current drops to normal, identifying the faulty component or wiring. Question 69. When repairing a damaged section of wiring harness on a truck, what is the recommended splice method? A. Twist the wires together and wrap with standard electrical tape for a quick repair. B. Use heat shrink solder connectors or crimp and seal terminals to create a weatherproof, low-resistance splice. C. Use wire nuts rated for household applications to join the conductors together. D. Solder the wires without insulation to allow visual inspection of the joint over time. The correct answer is B. Heat shrink solder connectors or crimp and seal terminals provide a low-resistance, weatherproof connection that withstands vibration and moisture exposure in the trucking environment. Question 70. How should a mechanic verify correct fuse and circuit breaker sizing in a truck electrical system? A. Install the largest available fuse size to prevent nuisance blowing during cold weather. B. Remove all fuses and measure the voltage at each socket to determine the correct rating. C. Compare installed fuse ratings to the manufacturer's wiring diagram and ensure wire gauge matches the fuse amperage. D. Replace circuit breakers with fuses of the same amperage for easier visual inspection. The correct answer is C. Fuse ratings must match the wire gauge and circuit requirements shown in the manufacturer's wiring diagram. Oversized fuses allow wire overheating, while undersized fuses cause nuisance blowing. Question 71. A truck repeatedly blows the same 15A fuse for the clearance lights. After replacing all bulbs, the fuse still blows. What is the most likely cause? A. The batteries are overcharged, sending excess voltage through the lighting circuits. B. The alternator diode bridge has an open diode causing AC ripple in the DC system. C. The light switch contacts are corroded, causing excessive resistance in the circuit. D. A short circuit in the wiring harness where insulation has worn through and contacts the frame. The correct answer is D. A repeatedly blown fuse after ruling out bulb problems indicates a short to ground in the wiring. Worn insulation contacting the metal frame creates a direct path that exceeds the fuse rating. Question 72. A truck's instrument cluster displays erratic gauge readings and warning lights. The mechanic suspects a data bus issue. What should be checked first? A. The engine oil level and coolant temperature to rule out actual mechanical problems. B. The CAN bus communication lines for proper terminating resistance and check for shorted or open wiring. C. The alternator output voltage to ensure it is within the regulated range. D. The air brake system pressure to confirm the low air warning is not a real condition. The correct answer is B. Erratic readings across multiple gauges suggest a data bus communication fault. Checking CAN bus termination resistance and wiring integrity identifies open or shorted network issues. Question 73. Multiple ECU fault codes appear simultaneously after a truck is involved in a minor collision. What should the mechanic suspect? A. All the ECUs have failed simultaneously due to a voltage spike from the impact. B. The collision has caused the engine to jump timing by several degrees. C. The airbag module has triggered a full system shutdown to protect the driver. D. Damaged wiring harness connectors or a CAN bus backbone wire disrupted by the collision impact. The correct answer is D. A minor collision can damage harness connectors or disrupt the CAN bus backbone, causing multiple ECUs to lose communication simultaneously. Physical inspection of harness routing near impact areas is critical. Question 74. After an ECM replacement on a diesel truck, the engine starts but runs rough with multiple derates. What was likely missed? A. The oil filter was not replaced at the same time as the ECM, restricting oil flow to sensors. B. The new ECM was not programmed with the correct vehicle configuration and injector trim codes. C. The air filter element was contaminated during the ECM installation process. D. The battery cables need to be disconnected for 30 minutes to reset the adaptive memory. The correct answer is B. A new ECM must be programmed with the vehicle-specific configuration parameters, including injector trim codes, vehicle speed calibration, and emission settings. Without this, the engine cannot operate correctly. Question 75. A telematics system reports a check engine fault remotely, but the driver sees no warning light on the dash. What should the mechanic do? A. Disregard the telematics report since the dashboard is the only reliable fault indicator. B. Replace the instrument cluster since it is not displaying the warning light properly. C. Connect a diagnostic scan tool to verify whether the fault code is active, pending, or intermittent and inspect the dash warning lamp circuit. D. Reset the telematics module by disconnecting battery power for 60 seconds. The correct answer is C. The fault may be pending or intermittent, or the dash lamp bulb or circuit may be faulty. A scan tool confirms the code status, and inspecting the lamp circuit rules out a non-functional warning indicator. Question 76. What type of clutch is most commonly used in heavy-duty Class 8 truck manual transmissions? A. A wet multi-disc clutch pack operating in automatic transmission fluid. B. A centrifugal clutch that engages automatically as engine RPM increases. C. A hydraulic torque converter with a mechanical lockup clutch piston. D. A pull-type, dry, single or dual-disc clutch with a diaphragm or coil spring pressure plate. The correct answer is D. Heavy-duty trucks typically use pull-type dry disc clutches where the release bearing pulls the pressure plate fingers to disengage. They are durable and suited for high-torque diesel applications. Question 77. What symptom indicates a worn or contaminated clutch disc in a heavy-duty truck? A. The transmission grinds when shifting into reverse at low RPM only. B. The parking brake fails to hold the truck on a grade with the engine off. C. The driveline vibrates only during deceleration on smooth highway surfaces. D. The clutch slips under load, with engine RPM rising without a corresponding increase in vehicle speed. The correct answer is D. A worn or contaminated clutch disc cannot transmit full engine torque. Under load, the disc slips between the flywheel and pressure plate, causing RPM to rise without proportional acceleration. Question 78. In a heavy-duty manual transmission, what is the function of the countershaft? A. It carries gears that mesh with the main shaft gears to provide different speed ratios. B. It connects the transmission output directly to the differential ring gear. C. It provides a parking brake function by locking the output shaft when engaged. D. It drives the speedometer cable and vehicle speed sensor through a worm gear. The correct answer is A. The countershaft carries gears that constantly mesh with main shaft gears. Sliding collars or synchronizers on the main shaft select which gear ratio is active by locking specific gears to the shaft. Question 79. What does a growling noise from a manual transmission in neutral with the clutch engaged typically indicate? A. The main shaft pilot bearing is worn and allowing shaft misalignment. B. The synchronizer blocking rings are excessively worn and need replacement. C. The shift tower detent springs are broken, allowing the shift rails to vibrate. D. The countershaft bearings are worn, allowing excessive gear lash and movement. The correct answer is D. In neutral with the clutch engaged, the countershaft rotates with the input shaft. Worn countershaft bearings produce a growling noise that changes with engine RPM but disappears when the clutch is disengaged. Question 80. When rebuilding a manual truck transmission, what must be checked on the synchronizer assemblies? A. The fluid coupling stator one-way clutch for freewheeling in both directions. B. The blocking ring contact surface for wear and the hub-to-sleeve spline fit for excessive clearance. C. The planetary gear set backlash and the sun gear shaft end play measurements. D. The valve body accumulator spring tension and the servo piston seal condition. The correct answer is B. Worn blocking ring contact surfaces cannot slow the gear to match shaft speed, causing hard shifting. Excessive hub-to-sleeve spline wear allows the transmission to jump out of gear. Question 81. In a heavy-duty automatic transmission, what is the function of the torque converter stator? A. It redirects fluid flow from the turbine back to the impeller to multiply engine torque at low speeds. B. It locks the converter housing to the flex plate during high-speed cruise. C. It controls the flow of transmission cooler fluid to the external heat exchanger. D. It holds the planetary gear set stationary to achieve reverse gear ratio. The correct answer is A. The stator redirects fluid returning from the turbine, increasing its velocity before it re-enters the impeller. This fluid redirection multiplies engine torque during acceleration and low-speed operation. Question 82. How should a mechanic check the fluid level on a heavy-duty automatic transmission? A. Remove the oil pan drain plug, collect a sample, and measure the volume that drains out. B. Visually inspect the fluid level through the clear sight glass on the transmission case. C. Run the engine at idle with the transmission at operating temperature, then check the dipstick with the vehicle on a level surface. D. Shut off the engine, wait 24 hours for all fluid to settle, then check the cold level mark. The correct answer is C. Automatic transmission fluid must be checked at operating temperature with the engine idling and the vehicle level. This ensures the torque converter is filled and provides an accurate reading. Question 83. After rebuilding an automatic transmission, what must be performed before the unit is installed in the truck? A. The flex plate must be welded to the torque converter to prevent separation under load. B. The governor valve must be shimmed to increase line pressure by 70 kilopascals. C. The clutch pack clearances must be increased beyond specification to account for break-in wear. D. An air test of the clutch packs and servos must confirm proper apply and release in each circuit. The correct answer is D. Air testing each clutch pack and servo circuit verifies that seals are intact and components apply and release correctly. This catches assembly errors before the transmission is installed. Question 84. When servicing an automated manual transmission, what should the mechanic do during routine maintenance? A. Check the transmission fluid level, inspect the clutch actuator, and verify that software is up to date using the diagnostic scan tool. B. Manually adjust the clutch free play with a feeler gauge every 20,000 kilometers. C. Replace the torque converter lockup clutch disc at every second oil change interval. D. Lubricate the shift fork pads with chassis grease through the shift tower access port. The correct answer is A. Automated transmissions require fluid level checks, clutch actuator inspection, and software updates. The ECU manages clutch engagement and shift points, so current software ensures optimal operation. Question 85. How should a mechanic diagnose harsh shifting in an automated manual transmission? A. Connect a skin tool to read transmission fault codes, clutch wear data, and shift adaptation parameters. B. Adjust the mechanical shift linkage cable to reduce lever travel between gears. C. Replace the synchronizer blocking rings and reassemble the transmission without skin tool diagnosis. D. Increase engine idle speed by 200 RPM to smooth out the automated shift engagement. The correct answer is A. The skin tool retrieves fault codes, clutch wear percentage, and shift adaptation values. These data points identify whether the issue is clutch wear, sensor failure, or a calibration problem. Question 86. After replacing the clutch on an automated manual transmission, what calibration must be performed? A. The air governor cut-in and cut-out pressures must be lowered by 35 kPa for smoother engagement. B. A clutch teach-in or calibration procedure must be run so the TCM learns the new clutch engagement point. C. The engine timing must be retarded 3 degrees to reduce initial torque during clutch engagement. D. The ABS module must be reprogrammed to recognize the new transmission gear ratios. The correct answer is B. The transmission control module needs to learn the new clutch engagement point, release point, and kiss point. Without this calibration, shifting is rough and the clutch may slip or grab. Question 87. During a routine inspection of an automated transmission, the skin tool shows clutch wear at 85%. What action should be taken? A. No action needed since automated clutches are designed to operate at up to 99% wear. B. Reset the wear indicator to 0 and continue operating until symptoms appear. C. Switch the transmission to manual mode to reduce clutch wear rate during city driving. D. Schedule clutch replacement soon, as 85% wear indicates the clutch is nearing the end of its service life. The correct answer is D. At 85% wear, the clutch has limited remaining life. Scheduling replacement prevents unexpected failure on the road. Continued operation risks complete clutch failure and costly roadside repairs. Question 88. What should a mechanic inspect when servicing a truck driveline system? A. The torque converter stall speed and the transmission cooler line flow rate. B. U-joint bearing caps for looseness, drive shaft runout, carrier bearing condition, and slip yoke spline wear. C. The fuel injector spray patterns and nozzle opening pressures at each cylinder. D. The air compressor unloader valve operation and the governor cutout pressure. The correct answer is B. Driveline inspection includes U-joint play, worn caps cause vibration, shaft runout, bent shaft, carrier bearing wear, support failure, and slip yoke spline wear, driveline noise. Question 89. A truck has a vibration that increases with vehicle speed but is unaffected by engine RPM or gear selection. Where should the mechanic look? A. The drive shaft balance, U-joints, and carrier bearing for wear since the vibration is speed dependent. B. The engine mounts and exhaust system hangers for broken rubber isolators. C. The air conditioning compressor clutch and idler pulleys on the serpentine belt. D. The flywheel and clutch disc assembly for warping or loose bolts. The correct answer is A. Speed-dependent vibrations unaffected by engine load point to rotating driveline components. An out-of-balance drive shaft, worn U-joints, or a failed carrier bearing all produce vibrations proportional to road speed. Question 90. A tandem axle truck loses traction on one drive wheel on a slippery surface while the other wheels remain stationary. What is the most likely cause? A. The interaxle differential lock is not engaged, allowing the differential to send torque to the wheel with least resistance. B. The automatic transmission torque converter is not locking up at low speed. C. The brake shoes on the slipping wheel are contaminated with oil, reducing friction. D. The drive shaft U-joints are worn, causing inconsistent torque delivery to the axles. The correct answer is A. Without the interaxle differential lock engaged, an open differential sends torque to the wheel with the least resistance. Engaging the lock distributes torque equally to improve traction. Question 91. A driver reports a howling noise from the rear axle that gets louder during deceleration. What should the mechanic suspect? A. Incorrect ring and pinion gear mesh pattern or worn gear teeth, since the noise changes with load. B. Worn wheel bearings on the rear axle that need repacking with fresh grease. C. A loose drive shaft carrier bearing allowing the shaft to vibrate against the frame. D. Worn brake drum surfaces creating harmonic resonance during braking. The correct answer is A. A howling noise that changes between acceleration and deceleration indicates ring and pinion gear issues. Coast side noise suggests the gear mesh pattern is incorrect or the teeth are worn. Question 92. During a drive axle overhaul, the mechanic discovers metal shavings in the differential oil. What does this indicate? A. Normal break-in wear from a recently installed ring and pinion gear set. B. The differential breather is clogged, causing pressure to push particles into the oil. C. The axle seals are leaking inward, drawing road contaminants into the housing. D. Internal component failure such as bearing damage, gear pitting, or spider gear wear requiring thorough inspection. The correct answer is D. Metal shavings in differential oil indicate internal component damage. Bearings, ring and pinion gears, or spider gears may be failing. A complete inspection is needed to identify all damaged parts. Question 93. A driveline retarder overheats during extended downhill use, triggering a warning. What should the mechanic advise and inspect? A. The engine compression brake is a suitable replacement for the driveline retarder permanently. B. The air brake system since retarders are not designed for use on downhill grades. C. The transmission fluid type, since only synthetic fluid is rated for retarder operation. D. The retarder cooling circuit for restricted fluid flow and the operator technique for excessive continuous use beyond rated duration. The correct answer is D. Driveline retarder overheating results from restricted cooling or excessive continuous use. Inspecting the cooling circuit and advising proper intermittent use prevents damage and ensures reliable operation. Question 94. What type of steering gear is most commonly used in Class 8 trucks? A. A rack and pinion steering gear with an electric power assist motor. B. A worm and roller steering gear without power assist for direct road feel. C. A recirculating ball-type steering gear with an integral hydraulic power assist. D. A variable ratio planetary gear set driven by an electronic steering actuator. The correct answer is C. The recirculating ball steering gear with integral hydraulic assist is standard in heavy trucks. It provides high mechanical advantage and durability for the high steering loads of Class 8 vehicles. Question 95. What component connects the pitman arm to the steering knuckle on a Class 8 truck? A. The drag link, which transmits steering motion from the pitman arm to the steering arm. B. The idler arm, which pivots on the passenger side frame rail. C. The stabilizer bar link, which provides lateral resistance during turns. D. The center link, which connects both tie rod ends in a parallelogram arrangement. The correct answer is A. The drag link connects the pitman arm, output of the steering gear, to the steering arm on the knuckle. It transmits the rotary motion from the gearbox to the front wheels. Question 96. What is the purpose of kingpins in a truck front axle assembly? A. They lock the front axle to the frame to prevent lateral movement during braking. B. They connect the tie rod ends to the steering gear pitman arm for directional control. C. They serve as pivot points allowing the steering knuckles to turn for vehicle steering. D. They provide the mounting point for the front brake caliper assembly. The correct answer is C. Kingpins are the pivot points between the front axle beam and the steering knuckles. They allow the knuckles and wheels to turn left and right when the driver steers the vehicle. Question 97. What alignment angle causes the front tires to point slightly inward when measured at the front of the tires? A. Positive camber, which tilts the top of the wheel outward from the vehicle center line. B. Toe-in, which compensates for suspension flex and helps stabilize straight-line tracking. C. Caster, which positions the steering axis ahead of or behind the wheel center line. D. Steering axis inclination, which reduces the scrub radius at the tire contact patch. The correct answer is B. Toe-in means the front edges of the tires are closer together than the rear edges. This preloading compensates for road forces and bushing flex that tend to push the wheels outward during driving. Question 98. What is the primary advantage of an air ride suspension over a leaf spring suspension on a truck? A. Air ride suspensions are less expensive to repair and require no routine maintenance. B. Air ride suspensions provide automatic ride height adjustment and improved ride quality for cargo protection. C. Air ride suspensions eliminate the need for shock absorbers on all axle positions. D. Air ride suspensions are lighter than leaf springs, increasing the truck payload by 500 kilograms. The correct answer is B. Air ride suspensions use airbags that automatically maintain ride height regardless of load. This provides a smoother ride, protects fragile cargo, and maintains consistent vehicle handling. Question 99. What component in an air suspension system controls the ride height of the vehicle? A. The shock absorber, which limits suspension travel and controls oscillation. B. The torque rod, which prevents axle rotation and maintains alignment. C. The air compressor governor, which regulates the overall system air pressure. D. The height control valve, leveling valve, which adds or exhausts air from the bags to maintain set height. The correct answer is D. The height control valve senses ride height through a mechanical linkage. When the vehicle drops below set height, it adds air to the bags. When too high, it exhausts air to lower the vehicle. Question 100. What is the function of torque rods in a truck suspension system? A. They control axle alignment by resisting rotational and lateral forces during acceleration and braking. B. They absorb road shocks by flexing between the axle and the frame rail. C. They distribute braking force evenly between the left and right brake assemblies. D. They provide a mounting point for the airbags on air ride suspension systems. The correct answer is A. Torque rods connect the axle to the frame and resist forces that try to rotate the axle during braking, wrap-up, or acceleration. They maintain proper axle alignment and prevent bushing damage. If you're finding these questions helpful, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. It helps other apprentices find this resource too. Now let's continue. Question 101. How should a mechanic inspect air suspension bags during a routine maintenance service? A. Remove each airbag and inflate it to twice its rated pressure on the bench to check for weak spots. B. Visually check for cracking, bulging, rubbing damage, and air leaks using soapy water solution on all fittings and seams. C. Measure the internal air temperature of each bag with an infrared thermometer to find hot spots. D. Disconnect the air supply and measure how long each bag takes to deflate completely. The correct answer is B. Visual inspection identifies cracking, cuts, bulging, or rubbing from contact with other components. Soapy water applied to fittings and seams reveals air leaks as bubbles form at the leak point. Question 102. When diagnosing uneven ride height on a truck with air suspension, what should the mechanic check first? A. The engine oil level, since low oil pressure can affect air compressor performance. B. The brake chamber pushrod length on the side that appears higher than the other. C. The fifth wheel plate height and trailer kingpin length for compatibility issues. D. The height control valve linkage adjustment and airbag condition on the low side for leaks or damage. The correct answer is D. Uneven ride height usually indicates a leaking airbag, misadjusted or sticking height control valve, or damaged linkage on the low side. These are the most direct causes to investigate first. Question 103. What is the correct procedure for checking the torque on wheel nuts during a truck tire service? A. Use an impact wrench set to maximum torque and run each nut until the wrench stalls. B. Hand tighten all nuts in a random order and then drive the truck 50 km before re-gearing. C. Use a calibrated torque wrench, tighten in a star pattern to the specified torque value, and recheck after initial service. D. Tighten all nuts clockwise in sequence around the wheel until they feel uniformly snug. The correct answer is C. A calibrated torque wrench ensures proper clamping force. Star pattern tightening distributes load evenly, and re-gearing after initial service accounts for wheel settling and fastener relaxation. Question 104. How should a mechanic diagnose irregular tire wear on the front steer axle of a Class 8 truck? A. Replace the tires with a different brand and monitor wear patterns over 10,000 kilometers. B. Inspect the wear pattern type, then check alignment angles, kingpin wear, and suspension components for root cause. C. Increase tire pressure by 70 kPa above the recommended specification to improve wear patterns. D. Rotate the steer tires to the drive axle to extend their remaining tread life. The correct answer is B. The wear pattern identifies the likely cause. Inside wear suggests negative camber or toe out, cupping indicates worn shocks or kingpins. Alignment and component inspection confirms the root cause. Question 105. When repacking a serviceable hub bearing on a truck, what is the correct procedure? A. Clean all components with solvent, inspect races and rollers for damage, repack with the specified grease, and set bearing end play to specification. B. Add new grease on top of the old grease to ensure maximum lubrication of the bearing surfaces. C. Tighten the adjusting nut until the wheel no longer spins freely, then back off one full turn. D. Install the outer bearing only and leave the inner bearing dry since it is lubricated by axle oil. The correct answer is A. Thorough cleaning removes contaminated grease, inspection catches damaged components before reassembly, fresh grease provides proper lubrication, and correct end play prevents bearing overload or looseness. Question 106. How should a mechanic measure tire tread depth on a commercial truck tire? A. Visually compare the tread depth to the wear indicator bars and estimate the remaining life. B. Use a calibrated tread depth gauge at multiple points across the tire width and around the circumference. C. Measure the overall tire diameter with a tape measure and subtract the casing height. D. Check the tire sidewall date code to determine when the tire should be replaced. The correct answer is B. A calibrated tread depth gauge provides precise measurements. Multiple readings across the width detect irregular wear, and readings around the circumference identify flat spots or out-of-round conditions. Question 107. When inspecting a truck frame during routine service, what should the mechanic look for? A. The paint color consistency along the frame rails to detect corrosion under the paint. B. The number of cross members to verify they match the VIN plate specification. C. Cracks at stress points, loose or missing fasteners, corrosion damage, and any unauthorized modifications or welding. D. The frame rail thickness using an ultrasonic gauge at every 300 mm interval. The correct answer is C. Frame cracks at stress points like spring hanger brackets, loose fasteners, and corrosion weaken structural integrity. Unauthorized welding or modifications can create stress risers that lead to failure. Question 108. How should a mechanic diagnose frame misalignment on a truck? A. Measure the engine oil pantoground clearance on both sides and compare the readings. B. Take diagonal measurements between fixed frame points and compare them, as unequal measurements indicate misalignment. C. Check the brake system air pressure on both sides for unequal values. D. Inspect the exhaust pipe routing to see if it appears bent or misaligned from the frame. The correct answer is B. Diagonal frame measurements from matching reference points should be equal within tolerance. Unequal diagonals indicate frame misalignment from collision, overloading, or structural fatigue. Question 109. A truck frame has a crack at the rear spring hanger bracket. What repair approach should the mechanic recommend? A. Weld the crack shut with standard mild steel MIG wire and grind the weld flush for appearance. B. Ignore the crack if it is less than 50 mm long since small frame cracks are cosmetic. C. Cut out the cracked section and weld in a section from a salvage frame of similar size. D. Follow the manufacturer's approved frame repair procedures, which may include drilling the crack end, fitting a reinforcement plate, and using frame-grade bolts. The correct answer is D. Frame repairs must follow manufacturer-approved procedures. Drilling the crack end stops propagation, and bolted reinforcement plates distribute stress without the heat-affected zones that welding creates. Question 110. During coupling, a driver reports the fifth wheel jaw does not fully lock around the trailer kingpin. What should the mechanic inspect? A. The trailer landing gear crank mechanism for binding that prevents proper kingpin height adjustment. B. The tractor frame cross members for misalignment that would change the fifth wheel approach angle. C. The fifth wheel jaw lock mechanism, pivot pins, and release handle for wear, damage, or maladjustment. D. The trailer air lines and glad hand connections for leaks that could affect coupling pressure. The correct answer is C. A fifth wheel jaw that does not fully lock indicates worn jaw components, damaged pivot pins, or a maladjusted release handle. These conditions risk trailer separation and are an immediate safety concern. Question 111. A tractor-trailer combination exhibits excessive free play between the fifth wheel and the trailer kingpin. What is the consequence if not corrected? A. Accelerated wear on the fifth wheel plate, kingpin, and potential loss of trailer coupling during operation. B. The air suspension height control valve will malfunction and lower the trailer to the ground. C. The fuel consumption will increase by approximately 15% due to aerodynamic drag changes. D. The trailer brakes will apply unevenly, causing the ABS warning light to illuminate. The correct answer is A. Excessive play causes pounding between the kingpin and fifth wheel, accelerating wear on both components. In extreme cases, the kingpin can disengage from the fifth wheel, causing trailer separation. Question 112. After replacing fifth wheel mounting bolts, the mechanic notices the fifth wheel plate sits unevenly on the mounting brackets. What action is needed? A. Add shims under the low side of the plate until it appears level by visual estimation. B. Tighten the mounting bolts more aggressively on the high side to pull the plate level. C. Verify the mounting bracket condition and bolt torque pattern, and replace any bent or damaged brackets before tightening to specification. D. Operate the truck normally since the fifth wheel will self-level under trailer weight. The correct answer is C. An unevenly seated fifth wheel indicates damaged mounting brackets or improper bolt tightening. Bent brackets must be replaced and all bolts torqued correctly to prevent fifth wheel failure under load. Question 113. What component in a truck cab controls the position of the driver's seat for ergonomic adjustment? A. The seat air suspension system and mechanical adjustment mechanisms for height, tilt, and lumbar support. B. The cab tilt hydraulic pump, which raises the entire cab structure for driver comfort. C. The dash-mounted ride height control valve connected to the air suspension system. D. The steering column telescoping mechanism, which moves the entire dashboard forward or back. The correct answer is A. Driver seats in Class 8 trucks use air suspension for ride comfort and mechanical adjusters for height, tilt, fore-aft position, and lumbar support to reduce driver fatigue and back strain. Question 114. What is the purpose of the instrument cluster warning indicators in a truck cab? A. To display GPS navigation directions and traffic conditions for the driver. B. To provide entertainment options and media control for long-haul driving comfort. C. To alert the driver of critical system conditions such as low air pressure, high coolant temperature, and low oil pressure. D. To monitor and display trailer weight distribution across all axle positions. The correct answer is C. Warning indicators monitor critical systems and alert the driver to conditions requiring immediate attention. Ignoring these warnings can lead to vehicle damage, breakdowns, or unsafe operation. Question 115. When repairing a truck cab door that will not latch properly, what should the mechanic inspect first? A. The door latch mechanism, striker plate alignment, and hinge condition for wear or misalignment. B. The window regulator motor and track for binding that may twist the door panel. C. The cab mount bushings to determine if cab shifting is causing door misalignment. D. The door interior trim panel screws to verify none are missing or over-tightened. The correct answer is A. A door that does not latch is usually caused by a worn latch mechanism, misaligned striker plate, or sagging hinges. Inspecting these three components first addresses the most common root causes. Question 116. What is the correct procedure for servicing a cabover engine, COE, truck cab tilt mechanism? A. Remove the entire cab from the frame and service the tilt mechanism on a bench. B. Inspect the tilt cylinders for leaks, check pivot pins and bushings for wear, and verify the hydraulic fluid level. C. Disconnect the steering column before tilting the cab to prevent damage to the wiring harness. D. Lubricate only the tilt lock pins since the hydraulic cylinders are lifetime sealed units. The correct answer is B. Cab tilt service includes checking hydraulic cylinders for leaks, inspecting pivot pins and bushings for wear, and maintaining proper fluid level. These ensure safe and reliable cab tilting operation. Question 117. How should a mechanic diagnose a cab air leak on a truck with air ride cab mounts? A. Inflate the cab air mounts to operating pressure and apply soapy water to all fittings, lines, and bag surfaces to find bubbles. B. Remove all cab mount bolts and lift the cab with a crane to inspect the mounts from below. C. Drive the truck at highway speed and listen for whistling sounds to locate the leak direction. D. Disconnect the cab air supply line and measure pressure drop at the dashboard gauge over 30 minutes. The correct answer is A. Soapy water applied to pressurized fittings, lines, and airbag surfaces reveals leaks as bubbles form at the leak point. This is the most direct and reliable method for pinpointing cab air leaks. Question 118. A truck cab is leaning noticeably to one side. After verifying the frame is straight, what should the mechanic investigate? A. The engine mount bolts on the opposite side for over-torquing that pulls the cab sideways. B. The exhaust system for a broken hanger that could be pulling the cab to one side. C. The cab mounts on the leaning side for a collapsed airbag, broken spring, or failed isolator bushing. D. The battery box mounting brackets for corrosion that may have weakened one side. The correct answer is C. A cab leaning to one side with a straight frame indicates a failed cab mount component on that side. Collapsed airbags, broken springs, or deteriorated isolator bushings allow the cab to sag. Question 119. What is the function of the landing gear on a semi-trailer? A. It provides a mounting point for the trailer air brake chambers and slack adjusters. B. It connects the trailer electrical system to the tractor through a junction box. C. It locks the trailer kingpin to the tractor fifth wheel during highway operation. D. It supports the front of the trailer when disconnected from the tractor, allowing safe loading and parking. The correct answer is D. Landing gear legs extend to support the trailer's front end when uncoupled from the tractor. They allow the trailer to stand independently for loading, unloading, and parking operations. Question 120. What type of connection provides both air supply and emergency brake control between a tractor and trailer? A. A single universal air coupling that handles both service and emergency air through one connection. B. Quick disconnect hydraulic fittings that convert air pressure to hydraulic force at the trailer. C. Glad hand couplers, with separate connections for the service, blue, and emergency oversupply, red, air lines. D. A 7-pin electrical connector that sends electronic signals to the trailer ABS for brake control. The correct answer is C. Glad hand couplers connect tractor and trailer air lines. The blue glad hand carries service brake air and the red carries emergency oversupply air. Color coding prevents cross-connection errors. Question 121. What happens to the trailer brakes when the emergency oversupply glad hand connection separates during travel? A. The trailer brakes remain released and the trailer rolls freely behind the tractor. B. The trailer spring brakes apply automatically due to loss of supply air pressure. C. The trailer ABS system activates and applies only the front trailer axle brakes. D. The trailer service brakes pulse rapidly to slow the trailer gradually without locking. The correct answer is B. When supply air is lost, the air holding off the spring brakes in the trailer chambers is exhausted. The powerful springs then apply the brakes automatically, stopping the trailer. Question 122. When servicing trailer roll-up door tracks and rollers, what maintenance should be performed? A. Replace the door curtain fabric with a heavier gauge material for longer service life. B. Weld the roller brackets directly to the trailer side panels for maximum strength. C. Clean the tracks, inspect rollers for flat spots or binding, lubricate moving parts, and check door balance and latching. D. Remove the counterbalance spring and operate the door without it to reduce maintenance complexity. The correct answer is C. Clean tracks and properly functioning rollers ensure smooth operation. Lubrication reduces wear, and checking balance and latching confirms the door opens, closes, and secures correctly. Question 123. How should a mechanic inspect trailer floor and crossmember condition during maintenance? A. Pressure wash the underside and allow it to dry completely before visual inspection only. B. Walk the floor checking for soft spots, inspect crossmembers from underneath for corrosion, cracking, and deflection. C. Measure the trailer interior width at each crossmember to check for frame narrowing. D. Check the trailer registration to determine the original floor material specification. The correct answer is B. Walking the floor reveals weak areas that may not be visible. Underside inspection of crossmembers identifies corrosion, cracks, and deflection that compromise load-bearing capacity and safety. Question 124. What routine maintenance tasks should be performed on a trailer refrigeration unit? A. Check the refrigerant charge, inspect belts and hoses, clean condenser coils, verify thermostat operation, and check the fuel level. B. Replace the compressor every 5,000 hours of operation regardless of condition. C. Flush the entire refrigerant system with compressed air every 500 operating hours. D. Remove and rebuild the evaporator fan motor at each scheduled oil change interval. The correct answer is A. Refrigeration unit maintenance includes verifying refrigerant charge, inspecting drive components, cleaning condenser coils for airflow, checking thermostat accuracy, and maintaining the diesel fuel supply. Question 125. How should a mechanic diagnose a trailer refrigeration unit that is not maintaining the set temperature? A. Increase the engine speed of the reefer unit diesel engine by adjusting the governor to maximum RPM. B. Check the refrigerant pressures, verify airflow through the evaporator and condenser, and inspect door seals for air leaks. C. Replace all the refrigerant without diagnosing the system to ensure a fresh charge. D. Disconnect the thermostat and wire the compressor to run continuously until the box temperature drops. The correct answer is B. Systematic diagnosis starts with checking refrigerant pressures, low charge or restriction, verifying airflow, dirty coils or failed fans, and inspecting door seals, warm air infiltration. Question 126. A trailer reefer unit cycles on and off frequently without reaching the set temperature. What is the most likely cause? A. The unit's diesel fuel filter is contaminated, causing the engine to stall at high load. B. An airflow restriction from iced evaporator coils or a failed defrost system preventing proper heat exchange. C. The trailer ABS module is drawing excessive current from the reefer battery bank. D. The trailer landing gear is partially lowered, creating wind resistance that overloads the compressor. The correct answer is B. Iced evaporator coils restrict airflow and reduce cooling capacity. The unit reaches its high-pressure limit and cycles off before the box cools. A failed defrost system allows ice to accumulate. Question 127. A reefer trailer hauling perishable goods loses cooling overnight at a truck stop. The reefer engine runs but the box temperature has risen 15 degrees Celsius. What should the mechanic check first? A. The trailer tire pressures, since underinflation generates heat that radiates into the cargo area. B. The refrigerant system pressures and compressor operation, since the engine running without cooling indicates a compressor or refrigerant circuit failure. C. The tractor engine coolant temperature, which may be heating the trailer through the fifth wheel. D. The trailer exterior paint color, since dark trailers absorb more solar heat during the day. The correct answer is B. If the reefer engine runs but the box warms, the compressor may have failed, the refrigerant charge may be lost, or a compressor clutch may not be engaging. Checking refrigerant pressures isolates the cause. Question 128. What is the function of the heater core in a truck cab heating system? A. It acts as a small radiator that transfers heat from the engine coolant to the cab airstream. B. It generates heat by burning diesel fuel in a combustion chamber under the dashboard. C. It converts electrical energy from the battery bank into radiant heat for the cab interior. D. It compresses refrigerant gas to produce heat for the cab through a reverse cycle process. The correct answer is A. The heater core is a compact heat exchanger through which hot engine coolant flows. The blower fan pushes cab air across the core, transferring heat from the coolant to warm the cab interior. Question 129. What controls the mix of hot and cold air delivered to the truck cab through the HVAC system? A. The coolant thermostat, which opens and closes based on the cab temperature setting. B. The water pump impeller speed, which varies coolant flow rate to the heater core. C. The radiator fan clutch, which controls how much heat is rejected from the cooling system. D. The blend door, which adjusts position to direct airflow through or around the heater core. The correct answer is D. The blend door pivots between the heater core and a bypass duct. Its position determines the proportion of heated versus unheated air mixed together before entering the cab, controlling outlet temperature. Question 130. What is the primary safety concern when a heater core fails and leaks inside the truck cab? A. The blower motor windings will short circuit from coolant contact, creating a fire hazard. B. The windshield will crack from thermal shock caused by hot coolant spraying on cold glass. C. Hot coolant can spray into the cab, the windshield fogs from glycol mist, and the engine may overheat from coolant loss. D. The cab air filter will become saturated, preventing fresh air from entering the ventilation system. The correct answer is C. A leaking heater core releases hot coolant and glycol mist into the cab, creating a burn hazard and fogging the windshield to reduce visibility. Significant coolant loss also risks engine overheating. Question 131. When a truck cab heater produces only cold air with the engine at operating temperature, what diagnostic steps should the mechanic follow? A. Verify coolant level is full, check that heater hoses are hot, and confirm the blend door moves to the heat position. B. Replace the blower motor resistor pack and the fan speed switch on the dashboard. C. Bypass the thermostat by removing it to allow unrestricted coolant flow to the heater core. D. Add a second heater core in parallel to double the heat output to the cab. The correct answer is A. No heat with a warm engine points to low coolant, a blocked heater core, cold hoses, or a stuck blend door. Checking coolant level, hose temperature, and blend door operation isolates the cause. Question 132. What must a mechanic do before opening any connection in a truck air conditioning refrigerant system? A. Run the A/C system at maximum cooling for 10 minutes to concentrate all refrigerant in the compressor. B. Open the windows and doors to ventilate the cab in case of refrigerant exposure. C. Recover the refrigerant using an approved recovery machine to prevent atmospheric release of the gas. D. Disconnect the battery to prevent electrical arcing when the refrigerant line is opened. The correct answer is C. Refrigerant must be recovered before opening the system. Venting refrigerant to the atmosphere is prohibited as it damages the ozone layer or contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. Question 133. How should a mechanic test for refrigerant leaks in a truck A/C system? A. Add compressed shop air to the system and listen for hissing sounds at all connections. B. Spray brake cleaner on the A/C hoses and watch for bubbles to indicate leak locations. C. Use an electronic leak detector at all fittings, connections, and component seals while the system is charged. D. Remove the compressor and submerge it in a water bath to check for air bubbles. The correct answer is C. An electronic leak detector is sensitive to refrigerant gas and can locate small leaks at fittings, seals, and connections. The system must be charged with refrigerant for the detector to identify leaks. Question 134. After replacing the A/C compressor on a truck, what must be done before recharging the system? A. Evacuate the system with a vacuum pump to remove air and moisture before adding refrigerant and the correct amount of compressor oil. B. Flush the system with diesel fuel to remove any remaining debris from the old compressor. C. Install the compressor without oil since the refrigerant will carry its own lubrication. D. Charge the system with refrigerant immediately through the low-pressure port while the engine is running. The correct answer is A. Evacuation removes air and moisture that degrade refrigerant and damage components. Correct compressor oil quantity ensures lubrication. Only after proper evacuation should refrigerant be added. Question 135. A truck A/C system cools intermittently, with the compressor clutch cycling rapidly on and off. What is the most likely cause? A. The cabin air filter is dirty, restricting airflow across the evaporator core. B. The blower motor is running at too high a speed, overcooling the evaporator coil. C. Low refrigerant charge causing the low-pressure switch to cycle the compressor clutch at the cutout threshold. D. The A/C control panel switch contacts are worn and making intermittent connection. The correct answer is C. Low refrigerant reduces system pressure near the low-pressure switch cutout point. The compressor engages, pressure rises slightly, then disengages when pressure drops again, causing rapid cycling. Question 136. A truck A/C system has high pressure on both the high and low sides. What is the most likely cause? A. A severely restricted receiver dryer causing refrigerant to back up in the liquid line. B. A leaking evaporator core allowing refrigerant to escape into the cab airstream. C. Restricted airflow through the condenser due to debris buildup, a failed fan, or an overcharge of refrigerant. D. A failed compressor clutch coil that prevents the compressor from running at full speed. The correct answer is C. High pressures on both sides indicate the condenser cannot reject heat effectively. Debris-blocked condenser fins, a failed cooling fan, or overcharged refrigerant all reduce condenser efficiency. Question 137. What is the function of a power takeoff, PTO, in a truck hydraulic system? A. It transfers engine or transmission power to drive a hydraulic pump for auxiliary equipment. B. It converts hydraulic pressure into electrical energy to charge the truck batteries. C. It disconnects the driveline from the transmission during hydraulic system operation. D. It regulates the maximum hydraulic system pressure to protect cylinders from overextension. The correct answer is A. A PTO mounts to the transmission or engine and provides a mechanical power output to drive a hydraulic pump. This powers equipment like dump bodies, cranes, or refuse compactors. Question 138. What is the purpose of the relief valve in a truck hydraulic circuit? A. To limit maximum system pressure by diverting excess flow back to the reservoir, preventing component damage. B. To maintain a constant flow rate regardless of system demand or pump speed. C. To filter contaminants from the hydraulic fluid before it reaches the pump inlet. D. To control the direction of hydraulic fluid flow to extend or retract cylinders. The correct answer is A. The relief valve opens at a preset pressure, directing excess flow back to the tank. This protects pumps, cylinders, hoses, and valves from damage caused by pressure exceeding system ratings. Question 139. What type of hydraulic pump is commonly used on truck PTO-driven systems? A. A centrifugal pump that uses high-speed impellers to generate fluid pressure. B. A diaphragm pump that compresses fluid using a flexible rubber membrane. C. A gear pump that uses meshing external gears to generate flow and pressure. D. A peristaltic pump that moves fluid by squeezing a flexible tube with rollers. The correct answer is C. Gear pumps are the most common type in truck hydraulic systems. They are simple, reliable, and durable, providing consistent flow rates suitable for dump bodies, hoists, and tailgate lifts. Question 140. What routine maintenance should be performed on a truck hydraulic system? A. Check fluid level and condition, replace filters at specified intervals, inspect hoses and fittings for leaks, and verify PTO operation. B. Drain and replace all hydraulic fluid every 500 operating hours regardless of condition. C. Tighten all hydraulic fittings an additional quarter turn at each oil change to prevent leaks. D. Run the PTO at maximum RPM for 15 minutes every week to keep the pump seals flexible. The correct answer is A. Regular maintenance includes fluid level and condition checks, filter replacement per schedule, hose and fitting leak inspection, and PTO engagement verification to ensure reliable operation. Question 141. How should a mechanic test hydraulic system pressure on a truck with a PTO-driven pump? A. Disconnect a hydraulic hose and measure the flow rate into a graduated container over 1 minute. B. Feel the hydraulic hoses by hand to estimate pressure based on how rigid the hoses become. C. Observe the hydraulic cylinder extension speed and compare it to the speed when the system was new. D. Install a calibrated pressure gauge at the pump outlet, engage the PTO, and compare the reading to the system specification. The correct answer is D. A calibrated pressure gauge at the pump outlet provides an accurate pressure reading. Comparing this to the system specification determines if the pump and relief valve are operating correctly. Question 142. When replacing a hydraulic cylinder on a truck, what precaution must be taken before disconnecting the lines? A. Run the PTO for 5 minutes to warm the hydraulic fluid before beginning the repair. B. Disconnect the truck battery to prevent accidental PTO engagement during the repair. C. Relieve all hydraulic pressure from the system and support or lower any raised loads before disconnecting lines. D. Flush the entire system with fresh fluid before removing the old cylinder to prevent contamination. The correct answer is C. Trapped hydraulic pressure can cause fluid to spray forcefully when a line is disconnected, causing burns or injection injuries. All pressure must be relieved and loads supported or lowered first. Question 143. After repairing a hydraulic system, what must the mechanic do before returning the truck to service? A. Fill the reservoir, bleed air from the system, cycle all functions through full range, and check for leaks at all connections. B. Paint all the new hydraulic components to match the truck color scheme for identification. C. Install a secondary relief valve in parallel with the existing one for additional safety. D. Remove the hydraulic filter to allow any assembly debris to flush out during the first test cycle. The correct answer is A. Filling the reservoir and bleeding air prevents pump cavitation. Cycling all functions verifies proper operation, and leak checking all connections confirms the repair is complete and safe. Question 144. A dump truck hydraulic system raises the box very slowly under load but operates at normal speed when empty. What is the most likely cause? A. A worn hydraulic pump that cannot maintain adequate flow at the higher pressure demand of a loaded box. B. The PTO gear ratio is too high, causing the pump to spin too fast and cavitate. C. The directional control valve spool is sticking in the neutral position from debris contamination. D. The hydraulic reservoir is too large, causing the pump to take too long to draw fluid. The correct answer is A. A worn pump produces sufficient flow at low pressure, empty box, but cannot maintain flow at the higher pressure required to lift a loaded box. Internal pump wear allows increased bypass leakage. Question 145. A hydraulic cylinder on a truck drifts down slowly when the control valve is in the hold position. What should the mechanic investigate? A. The PTO engagement mechanism for slipping, which reduces pump output and allows cylinder drift. B. The hydraulic reservoir cap vent for blockage that creates a vacuum preventing fluid from entering the cylinder. C. The cylinder piston seals for internal leakage and the control valve check or holding circuit for bypass. D. The pump suction line filter for restriction that reduces the fluid supply to the cylinder. The correct answer is C. Cylinder drift in the hold position indicates internal leakage. Worn piston seals allow fluid to bypass from the pressure side to the return side, or the valve holding circuit is leaking. Question 146. In a parallel hybrid truck drivetrain, how do the electric motor and diesel engine work together? A. The diesel engine charges the battery only while the electric motor provides all propulsion. B. Both the diesel engine and electric motor can drive the wheels simultaneously or independently depending on demand. C. The electric motor replaces the starter motor and has no role in vehicle propulsion. D. The electric motor operates the accessories only, while the diesel provides all drive torque. The correct answer is B. In a parallel hybrid, both power sources can drive the wheels. At low speeds the electric motor may propel the vehicle alone, at higher loads both work together for maximum efficiency. Question 147. What is the function of regenerative braking in a hybrid truck? A. It applies the engine compression brake automatically during downhill descents. B. It converts the vehicle's kinetic energy into electrical energy during deceleration, storing it in the battery. C. It uses the exhaust brake to slow the turbocharger and reduce boost pressure. D. It recycles brake pad material to extend the life of the foundation brake components. The correct answer is B. During deceleration, the electric motor operates as a generator, converting kinetic energy into electrical energy stored in the high-voltage battery. This reduces foundation break wear and recovers energy. Question 148. Before performing any repair on the high-voltage components of a hybrid truck, what must the mechanic do? A. Disconnect only the 12V auxiliary battery and wait 60 seconds before beginning work. B. Wear standard leather work gloves and safety glasses as the only required personal protective equipment. C. Follow the manufacturer's de-energization procedure, verify zero voltage with a Cat 3 rated meter, and apply lockout/tagout. D. Idle the engine for 10 minutes to drain the high-voltage battery through normal operation. The correct answer is C. High-voltage systems in hybrid trucks can exceed 600 VDC. The manufacturer's de-energization procedure must be followed exactly, voltage verified at zero with a Cat 3 meter, and lockout/tagout applied. Question 149. When servicing an electric truck battery cooling system, what should the mechanic inspect? A. The battery thermal management coolant level, hose condition, and cooling plate integrity for leaks or blockage. B. The diesel engine coolant level and thermostat operation for proper warm-up cycle. C. The air conditioning compressor clutch gap and belt tension for proper engagement. D. The exhaust after-treatment system temperature sensors for accurate readings. The correct answer is A. EV battery packs require thermal management to maintain optimal temperature. Inspecting coolant level, hose condition, and cooling plates ensures the batteries operate within their safe temperature range. Question 150. An electric truck displays a high-voltage isolation fault warning. What should the mechanic do first? A. Continue driving the truck to the nearest shop since the warning is only informational. B. Stop the vehicle safely, avoid touching any orange-cabled components, and follow the isolation fault diagnostic procedure using insulated tools and proper personal protective equipment. C. Reset the fault by cycling the ignition key off and on 3 times to clear the code. D. Disconnect the 12V battery to de-energize the entire high-voltage system immediately. The correct answer is B. A high-voltage isolation fault means the high-voltage system may have a path to the vehicle chassis, creating an electrocution risk. The vehicle must be stopped and proper HV safety procedures followed. That's all the questions for today. If this helped you prepare, subscribe now and hit the bell. We post exam prep for all Red Seal trades. Visit questionbankhub.com for the complete study guide with additional practice questions. Good luck on your truck and transport mechanic Red Seal exam. You've got this.